¿Qué es la que hay, mi gente? Welcome to eCruz Learning, where it's just that easy. With your favorite host, Master Cruz, and today we're going to learn how to write linear equations given information. So here we go. The slope-intercept form of a linear equation is y equals mx plus b, is that famous equation or formula where the slope is represented by m and the y-intercept is represented by b. So let's use it. Write the equation of a line, or EOL for short, with slope 2/3 and y-intercept 0, comma, -5. Now, it is important that you understand that to write the equation of a line, every single time you need two things. You need a point and you need a slope. You need a point and you need a slope. When you read this question or this problem, the first thing that you can see is the slope. The first given information is that the slope is 2/3, right? They tell you that the slope is 2/3. So this is my slope right here. So I could automatically, because I know that the answer is going to look like this, right? I could write, if I wanted to, y equals mx plus b, right? But then I'm going to replace m and I'm going to replace b. So I'm going to erase m and I'm going to write down what m equals, which is in this case 2/3. And that comes straight from here, okay? And then I need b. So I need to erase b and write down what b is. Well, what is b though? Because you're given a point, you need a point. Well, b is a special point, right, in your graph, and that point is the y-intercept. And it turns out that they give you that point here, it's 0, comma, -5. And the reason why this is a special point is because x is always 0. So even if they don't tell you this is the y-intercept and they just say 0, comma, -5, you should be able to identify the y-intercept because x is always 0 and the y-intercept is whatever the y value is. And that's why they call it the y-intercept. So then I'll come here and I'm going to circle this and I'm going to say, well, the y-intercept in this case is -5. So instead of plus b, I'm actually going to erase the plus b and I'm going to put -5. And that will be the equation of a line in slope-intercept form because I have a slope 2/3 and I have a y-intercept -5. Now you can tell me, if you just look at the equation, how do you know which one is the slope? Well, if you look at the original equation, the slope is always with x. The slope is the coefficient of x. So in this case, it's 2/3 x. Sometimes you will see this same equation written backwards. You will see something like y equals -5 plus 2/3 x. Well, guess what? This is still the same equation because as you can see, the slope here is with x, which is 2/3. The slope here is still with x, which is 2/3. So it doesn't matter the order. What matters is the number with the x is the slope, and the number by itself without the x, that is your y-intercept. And if for some reason there was no y-intercept, so if I'm looking at this problem and there's no -5, that's the entire equation, then the y-intercept is 0 because we don't write +0 or -0. We don't write anything. So that will be the y-intercept 0. But in this case, it's -5. So let's leave it right there. Let's go to example 2. Example 2 says, write the equation of a line that goes through the point 1, 5 and has slope 3. So again, to write the equation of a line, we need a point, and we are given a point. Okay, we have the point 1, 5. So we could absolutely label this as x and y. I highly encourage you to do that right away. And has slope of 3. Well, we know what the final answer needs to look like. Our final answer needs to look like y equals mx plus b. And with the given information, we have the slope. They say that the slope is 3. So I can automatically erase that m and write down a 3 here because I know that's the slope. However, in this case, I'm given a point that is 1, 5, but that point is not the y-intercept. And the reason I know it's not the y-intercept is because x is not 0. X is not 0. So I cannot just plug it in. So what can I do? Well, I could still use my equation, right? I could still use the fact that y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to substitute this point and the slope in here to solve for b. So x is 1 and y is 5. So I'm going to substitute. Instead of a y, I'm going to write down 5 equals instead of m, I'm going to write down 3 because I know that's 3 already. Instead of x, I'm going to write down 1. So I'm going to open a parentheses and I'm going to write down 1. And then I don't have anything for b, so I'm just going to put plus b. And I know that I have to solve for b. I know I have to solve for b. So because I got to solve for b, I have to simplify everything else. So 3 times 1 is just 3. So I'm just going to bring this down. This is 5 equals 3 times 1 is 3 plus b. And then to solve for b, I will have to subtract 3 from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And if I do that, I will get that b equals, right? B, oops, there we go. B equals 5 minus 3 is 2. So I just found b. That's what b equals, which means I could go to that original problem that I had and plug it in. So instead of writing a b, I'm going to erase the b and I'm going to put 2. And that is the equation of a line in slope-intercept form for this slope and that point. Very simple. I hope that this is not that hard. This is a review from something that hopefully you've seen before. What you're going to see now might be the first time you're seeing this. We're going to write the same equation of a line as the previous problem, but we're going to do this in point slope form instead. So the point, we're going to rewrite them down here. The point, the information is 1, 5, and the slope is 3. So the point slope form, it's a little bit different from the slope intercept form. This is the point slope form, and the point slope form shows you a point just by looking at it and a slope just by looking at it. So you guessed it. I'm going to rewrite this as y, right? I'm going to rewrite this as y minus y1 equals m, open parentheses, x minus x1. But instead of writing m, I already know what m is. I'm going to erase that. That's the slope. And the slope is 3, right? The slope is 3 right here. We all agree. So that's it. That's 3. I already have that part. Well, I also have a point because they give me a point. Remember, the point is x comma y. So x comma y. Now, even though I always put x comma y, for this specific problem, this is going to be x1, y1, because this is the point. You will always leave this y and this x alone because it has to be part of the equation. So I'm going to substitute the point only to the x1 and y1. Now, I'm going to change something real quick. Okay, I'm going to change something real quick because I'm going to make this. Actually, I'm not going to change it. Let's leave it alone. So when you have this, all I have to do is substitute. So instead of x1, which is right here, I'm going to erase x1. Okay, and I'm going to substitute positive 1. All right. When I have y1, I'm going to erase y1, and I'm going to substitute positive 5. Okay. Now, when I read this, it doesn't say y plus 5. It says y minus 5. So y minus 5 equals 3 open parentheses x minus 1. So although the x here is positive, when I look at it here, it says x minus 1. It will always be the opposite. If this is y positive 5, is going to be y minus 5. It will always be the opposite. And I'll give you one more example in a second so that you can see what we're talking about. But that's it. That is the equation of a line in point slope form. Nothing else to do because that's a form. You could tell a point just by looking. Hopefully you could tell that the slope is 3 and that the x value here is positive 1. The y value is positive 5. Now, if I wanted to change this to slope-intercept form, because that's the second part, it says write the equation of a line in point slope form, which is this, and then solve this to slope-intercept form. So to do that, there's always 2 easy steps. The first step is distribute the 2. I need to distribute the 2. So I'm going to drop the y minus 5, and this equals 3x minus 3. And then the last step will be to get y by itself. You're going to add 5 to both sides, so plus 5 plus 5. This cancels, and you're going to get y equals 3x plus 2. And that will be my answer. Now, the cool thing about this is that if we compare this answer to the answer above, it's exactly the same. It's y equals 3x plus 2 and y equals 3x plus 2. So these are 2 different ways that you could find the same answer. Okay, the same answer. Let's write an equation of a line of us that has -5, 6, and the slope is -1/2. So I want to show you how to do this when you have actual fractions so that you understand how to do it. Now you could use method A or method B, one of the two. I'm going to use y equals mx plus b just because that's my favorite method and it's only one equation that I need to memorize. So the first thing is set this equal to x. I'll set this equal to y, okay? And plug it in because I know my slope. So y is 6, so this is 6 equals, the slope is -1/2. I open my parentheses and I write down that x is -5. And then I'm going to say plus b. Okay, I'm going to say plus b. I know that I need to solve for b, and I know my final answer. My final answer, it's going to look like y equals a -1/2 x, but I don't know what the b is going to be. It's going to be plus, right? I'm just going to write plus b, and then we're going to solve for b, and then we're going to replace it. So I have to multiply fractions. And the way that we multiply fractions is we put a 1 under the -5. And then if I say TBT, you say BBB, right? So what that means is drop the 6. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive. And then 1 times 5 is 5 on the numerator over 2 times 1 is 2 in the denominator. And this is plus B. Okay. At this point, you can use fractions or you can use decimals. Since I have fractions in the slope, I'm going to stay consistent and I'm going to still use fractions. So I'm going to subtract 5/2 from both sides. And hopefully you know this. I could subtract 5/2 from both sides. I could just move the 6 over here. And whenever I move one number from one side of the equal sign to the other, just change the sign. So it's going to be -5/2. And this requires you to remember how to add or subtract fractions. So I'm going to do this on this side, okay? If you have 6 minus 5 over 2, you will need to write equivalent fractions in order to simplify them. So I'm going to put the 6 over 1. And the question is, you need common denominators. You need common denominators. So what do I have to do to 1 to get 2? Well, multiply times 2. And what you do on the denominator, you also have to do it in the numerator. So you have a equivalent fraction. So 6 times 2 is going to give me 12 over 1 times 2 is going to give me 2 minus 5 over 2. And now I can subtract them because I have common denominators. So I subtract the numerators. 15 minus 5 is 7 over, and you leave the common denominator alone. Do not change it because if you change it, it's no longer common. So you always leave it alone. So that means that if I go back here, 7 halves equals B. So I know what B equals because that's what 6 minus 5 over 2 is. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it in right here. So I'm going to erase the B and I'm going to write down 7 halves. And that is the equation of a line. Now, that is the equation of a line if I ask you to write it in a slope-intercept form. What if I just ask for point-slope form? If I ask for point-slope form, this is actually really easy, right? If you're asked to do that, because all you got to do is plug it into this equation. Y minus y1 equals m open parentheses, x minus x1, and that's it. That will be the answer. So I'm going to put a y here. I'm going to put an equal sign and open parentheses with an x here. And I'm going to look at the point and the slope. Because remember, to write an equation, you need a point and the slope. The slope in this problem was -1/2, right? -1/2. So I'm going to write down over here -1/2. And that's it. That's my slope. But my point here, which is -5, 6, okay? Now I'm going to put the 6 here. This is a positive 6. But the actual equation says y minus y1. So this is going to be a lie, right? This is going to be backwards. Instead of a positive 6, we're going to write y minus 6. And because this is a -5, sorry, when you plug in -5 here, you're going to get a +5. And that happens because in the actual equation, you will put x minus -5, right? Maybe let me color code this so that you can see it clearly. Okay, you will have that. but two negatives will turn into a positive. That will turn into x plus 5, and that's where that comes from, okay? So that will be the equation of a line in point slope form, and that is how you write the equation of a line given a point, a slope, or 2 points. I hope that this was very helpful. And if you need extra support, please visit our website, virtualmathmasters.com, for personalized tutoring. My name is Master Cruz, and this was eCruz Learning, where it's just that easy.